And welcome to a bonus episode of the Udami Hello podcast. Today we are going to be recapping this past Sunday's WWE NXT TakeOver War Games from the Capitol Wrestling Center at the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. Why are you laughing at me?
Such a silly name.
From the CWC. The War Games. I love the War Games pay-per-view, the annual pay-per-view for NXT. If you don't remember, there were two War Games matches from this past Sunday where two teams are contained in separate cages with one member of each team starting that match. Then after 5 minutes, a member from each team is released to enter the match. I'm sorry, one team. And then after a 3-minute period, alternating members from each team will enter until all of the competitors are inside the cage. Once all competitors are in the cage, War Games officially begins. You cannot escape or leave the cage, or you will forfeit the match for your team. And the only way to win the match is by pinfall or submission. So this year there were two of them. There was a women's match and a men's match. Andy and I watched the pay-per-view live on Sunday night, and we're going to recap that for you today. Andy, what do you think?
You know, you said to me when we first started watching that night, you're like, isn't there a top to War Games? And I remember being like, no, there isn't. But in the original, NWA, WCW, there was a top to the cage. And they don't do that anymore. Obviously now, because you can have people jumping off and doing crazy things, it just brings more excitement than having that top of the cage. So definitely a little different feel than the original old school War Games, but WWE, NXT, they made it their own. So, Undisputed Era was in the men's match, and they are like the staple of War Games. Yeah, I think have they been in every single one?
They were definitely in last year's for sure, possibly even the one before that.
Yeah, and I remember the previous ones were really good. So I had high expectations going into this because just like you, this is one of my favorite pay-per-views of theirs. I haven't been following NXT as closely lately. I've been kind of reading up on it and watching things here and there. So some of the angles I'm kind of getting brought into here. So I went in with a fresh point of view.
Well, first off, the women's match for the War Games, it was Team Shotzi, which is Shotzi Blackheart, Ember Moon, Rhea Ripley, and Io Shirai versus Team Candice, which was Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, and Toni Storm being the heels. For the War Games match here, the card was stacked. I was mentioning it to you while we were watching it that I think everybody in this match is a great wrestler. Some of my favorites of all time, Dakota Kai, Toni Storm, Candice LeRae, and some new favorites of mine, Ember Moon, Io Shirai, Shotzi Blackheart. So just a ton of people. I think Raquel Gonzalez for me was the weak link in the entire match, but still a great wrestler.
Yeah, and I really, on paper, I feel like this should have been the main event.
Yeah, and I think it outperformed the men's match too.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I agree. This was definitely the match of the night for me. I feel like they pulled out moves. I just feel like there was more of a story behind it as well. At least for me, coming in from the outside of not really having much of what the storylines were. I felt like I understood it from the beginning. You can kind of feel that tension between the faces and the heels. And I think the announcers did a good job kind of explaining it as well. So I was kind of brought right into it. There were some elements of the match I didn't particularly like. It's something that we kind of called out while watching it. They brought out a sledgehammer and literally hit, who was it? Was it Dakota Kai over the back?
Yes, it was just a straight hammer shot to the back.
Yeah, sledgehammer to Dakota Kai. That would cripple somebody, immobilize them. That's why Triple H kind of used it as the end to the match when he would bring it out. So yeah, and it was a hard strike across the back. It wasn't a weak shot whatsoever. And I feel like when they put those kinds of things into a match, it kind of takes away from the believability. But besides, they had some other weapons too. They had like a hammer and like, things like that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, they had the kendo stick. They had the garbage can.
I mean, some of those things, like a garbage can isn't going to put you out. Like if I was walking down the street and just took my garbage can and whacked you across the face with it, it's going to hurt, but it's not going to put you down for very long. If I hit you in the
Mhm.
face with a sledgehammer, I'm going to jail. Um, I'd probably go to jail too if I hit you with the garbage can. That would just be kind of weird. Um, so those kinds of things kind of took away from the match a little bit, but overall, I thought this was a really good match. I think Indy Hartwell had some interference in there too. Not really a big fan of interference when it comes to a gimmick match like this, but I think it played into the storyline that they're doing. Um, and then they just had some cool spots. So I don't know if you want to talk about anything else, but
Yeah, the spots that really were huge for me was Io Shirai's dive off the cage in the garbage can, Ember Moon's stunner onto the chair,
that was sick.
Tony power bombing onto the garbage can, a ladder power bomb from Raquel, which was really awesome as well. One of the things that you mentioned with Rhea with the hammer being a bit much, I also thought it was really out of place for Tony Storm to take the turnbuckle off in a steel cage. I thought like exposing more steel in a steel cage was really stupid and a waste of time. But it was good. Again, I would say top match of the night. Just like
Forgot about the Dakota Kai double foot stomp onto the garbage can while
yes,
Io Shirai was inside and just like flattened it,
and then
and then
they
she
couldn't
couldn't
get
get
her
it
out.
out. That was great.
Well, if you're keeping up with us here on the recap, it was Team Shotzi versus Team Candice. Team Candice being the heels, and the winner of that, I thought was going to be Team Shotzi. You thought was going to be Team Shotzi, and it was Team Candice. So a bit of a surprise there.
Yeah, but you know what? As I was thinking about it, they needed the win more. Raquel picked up the win, right? And I feel from a storyline perspective that was the right choice. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about the Io Shirai dive with the garbage can. And she wasn't actually the first person to do that. There's been others. Great Sasuke has done that before. Sexy Eddie on the Indies, who summoned that Steen and Generico, or Kevin Owens, and I don't want to say who he is now, but he Sexy Eddie did that in Combat Zone. I think he did a moonsault. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yep. Never seen Sexy Eddie. You gotta look up Sexy Eddie. It's 3 X's. Look for the match where he punctures a vein and drinks the blood out of his arm.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe no, I won't. Candice LeRae ended up favoring her right arm, clearly hurt during the match. We do not have an update as of Wednesday, I think, as to what that injury is going to be, but best wishes to Candice. From that point on, we moved on to Tommaso Ciampa versus Timothy Thatcher. Now, for me, I didn't see enough of Timothy Thatcher moving into this. I thought the match was great. I thought it was essentially a kind of just a straight mat clinic, if you want to say that. I'm a little bored by the Timothy Thatcher persona. I also thought Tommaso coming down from the main event status to where he is now is a bit odd. But it was brutal. There was some brutal stuff in there. There was a brutal DDT through the ropes. I think it was kind of Randy Orton style, right? Through the ropes. That was intense. There was some bleeding from Thatcher's left ear. What did you think?
Yeah, I had seen Thatcher quite a bit prior to him coming to NXT, and I didn't know how he was going to fit in very well because his style is very mat based. It is very intense though, and I think he's doing a really good job at making people interested in his matches. I don't know if the character is there yet. I think it's something he's still kind of working on. From what I'm seeing, he was never kind of a promo guy. He was just, I'm going to beat you down. And I think him and Ciampa gelled really well in this match. I believe you called Ciampa a hairy Oni Lorcan, which I thought was pretty spot on. But no, I thought it was a really good match. Definitely a little bit different from the absolute chaos that was in the first match to a more grounded attack there. The blood to the ear I think was unintentional. And I thought that unintentional brought that um, just a really fantastic element. It was kind of like almost like when Bret Hart had Stone Cold in the sharpshooter, and Stone Cold was bleeding from the face like that. Um, that moment, obviously, there wasn't as much blood, but it just brings a different kind of intensity to a match. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. At the end of the day, I think the two of us had suspected that Thatcher would win, but in this case, Tommaso Ciampa won by pinfall after that brutal DDT off of the middle rope.
Yeah, well, I don't think it hurts Thatcher because I think it proved like he's, he hung in there with Ciampa, who was a very well respected NXT veteran. So the fact that he took him to his limit, and I think they were kind of teasing. I think we were talking about like, are they going to team in the future? Are they going to face off again? Like there was a kind of like respect kind of stare down. So we'll see. I think there's more to the story.
Yeah. Up next is a match style that I am not a big fan of, was the strap match between Cameron Grimes and Dexter Lumis. Again, the wrestling at its worst in NXT is still a really good match. You're not going to find too many matches that are just duds. However, in saying that, I'm not a huge fan of Cameron Grimes or Dexter Lumis's characters, or the storyline that they're going for here. I know it's part comedy, it's part serious here, but I just wasn't interested in it personally. There was some cool moments here or there. It was fine, for a strap match. I think that's always going to be a tough kind of match to do, just because you're literally strapped to the other person. They've made the strap longer over the years, which makes it a little better. But for me, it was kind of a miss. I would still give it a passing grade for the match, but for me, it was kind of a miss.
I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. So I haven't really got into the Dexter Lumis character from what I've seen. It's not a whole heck of a lot. So, and Cameron Grimes, I like as a wrestler. I'm not really sure I understand the character from what I see. Like they showed the preview video, and I was literally like, "What the f is going on here?" It seemed just absolute craziness, which is okay. You kind of have to have a mix in a wrestling show, so I don't mind the craziness. Grimes was pretty funny at the beginning where he yelled at the ref. I got the strap on. I was just laughing hysterically at that. I was like, I don't know how they picked it up on the mic or why they would want to. There were parts where I kind of zoned out in this match, but when they kind of brought me back in. I thought they did a really good job with, like you said, a strap match is hard, but I think they did a really good job with implementing that into the match. There were some cool spots here and there, and I really didn't mind the match. I thought it was pretty good. I think the finish was really cool. The way Dexter Lumis kind of tied the strap around Grimes while he put the submission hold on him. I thought they played that out really well because I've seen people try to put a gimmick, when they try to do a submission hold and they can't figure it out, and there's like this weird awkwardness of them trying to figure it out, and he just was like, yeah, this is how I do it, and I'm going to choke you now and tap you out. So I thought the match was pretty good.
All right. Well, in that one, Dexter Lumis ended up picking up the win and moving forward. Next up was the NXT North American Championship between Leon Ruff, Damian Priest, and Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano, one of the all-time NXT favorites for sure. Damian Priest, up and coming, tall dude, reminds me a lot, and they mentioned it last night or on Sunday, of Razor Ramon. Scott Hall, he's got that look, got that kind of style as well, I think. But he's got that darker kind of Undertaker, esque look to him. I don't really understand his gimmick a lot. I think the Archer thing is kind of corny, but he's a great wrestler from what I can see. The big story here was Leon Ruff, kind of showing this kind of underdog, up against two big dudes. And then a second story that came here was the Ghost Face.
Right, you just said Gargano was a big dude. He's
What I say?
he's just said Gargano was a big dude.
No, I'm sorry. I just mean like big in
Characters.
character. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. I was like, you think he's smaller than us?
But then so we had the character storyline of Ruff, and then on the side there too, the Ghostface figure coming up. Again, this match was good. Wasn't one of my favorites of the night, but it was a good match. It was a good triple threat match, even with that kind of cheap ending there. But what do you think?
Yeah, I love Gargano. What he's done in NXT. He's put on some classics.
Mm-hmm.
Priest, I didn't see in Ring of Honor. I had heard of him when he was there, but I didn't really get to check him out. I think he's really good in the ring. I don't understand the character. I think it kind of goes in a lot of different ways. I think they're still trying to figure out like where they want to go with that. And Leon Ruff, I'd only really seen in squash matches. I know he came from Evolve and was doing his thing down there. So this was my first really chance to see what he could do, and he really, I don't want to say surprised me, but I was impressed by him. Is probably the better word. I thought he hung in there really well. He pulled out some really cool stuff. Didn't botch anything. Like he just looked like he belonged. So great job by Leon Ruff. He did that. That was a really cool spot where Damian Priest, when he threw him through the glass of the barricade there,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of flattened out. And then I think someone was supposed to be holding up a second barricade and actually dropped it. You remember that their face was like, "Oh, I don't think that was supposed to happen." And then the mask face, the guys of the mask that came out and interfering, I feel like it took away from the match for me. I'm not really big on these too much interference. Like now this is the second time of the night that we're seeing interference. The first time being in the women's match with Indy Hartwell, and now you have this. When you have too much of the same thing, it takes it away for me. And then they also had the pipe, almost like Scott Steiner's pipe. Again, something that they did in the first match. Mm-hmm. When you start to do the same thing, it gets boring. Like mix it up a little bit. So that kind of took away from the match. I think it was a fine match, not one of my favorites of the night, but it did its, I guess, what they were looking to do. But Gargano won, which I'm kind of surprised at. I thought they would kind of put Leon over as the underdog and let him keep it and kind of run with it. I'm not upset that Gargano wins it. It kind of gives Leon a little bit of a shine. Priest can move on with whatever's going on with the masked people, and Gargano can move on to something else. So,
yeah, so I have similar thoughts on that. I think it was unnecessary during Indy Hartwell's appearance. If that hadn't happened, this wouldn't be as annoying. But what I found to be annoying was that there was a storyline happening with Leon Ruff, and there's a storyline happening with Ghostface. And I feel like they tried to do both at the same time. They should have dealt with the Ruff storyline first, got him out of there, and then maybe a Priest Gargano later, and then have the Ghostface. Because as we know now, the Ghostface attack was not about a group. It wasn't a Retribution 2.0. It ended up being Austin Theory returning after quitting NXT a couple of weeks prior, and partnering with Gargano. So I'm okay with the Gargano Austin Theory group there now with the two of them. I think Gargano is going to be able to teach Austin Theory a lot that he probably needs to learn in NXT. Something that I heard later, I didn't hear it live, but Austin Theory, when he pulled his mask off, said, "It was me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin," which was a Vince McMahon throwback to 1999 when he was revealing himself. Obviously, in a first person, it was me, Austin, rather than it was me to Austin. But I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, until you said it, I completely forgot that Austin Theory was under the mask. Just with the rest of the show, it completely went over my head. Totally forgotten moment, which goes to show that's probably not a good thing.
I'm with you. Ending the night was the men's war game match with Team McAfee versus the Undisputed Era. I have a lot to say about these two teams. First off, Team McAfee. Pat McAfee is the Kurt Angle of this generation for me. For someone to come in and just get it right away. There aren't many people. Pat McAfee, Kurt Angle, Ronda Rousey. The three of them come into the WWE and little to no training are doing it better than some of the people already there. Pat McAfee's got the talk. Ronda Rousey did not. Pat McAfee has a great heel demeanor. And then to side him with Pete Dunne, Danny Burke, and Oni Lorcan. First off, Danny and Oni deserve everything they're getting currently. They're one of the best pure tag teams around. Pete Dunne is one of my favorites. I did like him with Riddle as well, with the comedy side of things going on, but having him in a serious role like this is also really, really good. Versus my favorite team of all time, the Undisputed Era. Literally, I'm saying of all time. Better than everybody else we talked about in our prior episodes. Undisputed Era, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Roddy Strong, Bobby Fish. The best team. I love everything about them. The music, the hand gestures, each wrestler individually.
Fanboy much?
I am. But like we said in the beginning, not as good as the women's match. The women's match, I think, was shorter as well. This match drained in the last 10 minutes, I felt. You even made a couple comments as we were watching it. It's like, is this over yet? What do you think?
Yeah. I concur with everything you said about every member on both sides. I hadn't seen the McAfee match prior that he had with, I think it was Adam Cole. I heard good things. Yeah. Him on the microphone, I have heard, and he can talk the talk. So I was impressed with what he could do inside the ring, even though it wasn't like anything chain wrestling, but he did a moonsault through a table, and even though he got right up, he should have sold it a little bit because he just went through a table too. But those are little things, he'll pick up on. So that was kind of cool. The match kind of dragged for me, which is unfortunate. I think it doesn't help that there's 2 War Games matches. I think if you're gonna have a War Games pay-per-view, 1. I think 2 is too many because it's the same thing. It's almost like they do like 3 Hell in a Cell matches. It's not special anymore. Mm-hmm. Or like when Impact did a whole pay-per-view around cage matches. Mm-hmm. Like you can't overdo something in one night. So like even some of the spots, even though they're different, almost feel similar because of the appearance of it. So it kind of took away a little bit of it. I forget who it was, but they kicked out of the Panama Sunrise, the Adam Cole Canadian Destroyer there. He does. Mm-hmm. Like I thought that was the end. I was like, oh, cool, matches, and they kicked out, and I was like, oh, like 10 minutes too long for me as well. So I think it was fine, but fortunately, when you have so many members of both groups that you absolutely love, you want it to be a 5-star or whatever 5-star would be considered. So,
I think final thoughts here on the entire pay-per-view. It was a must-watch pay-per-view. I think it was definitely on a higher level than most of the pay-per-views we saw this year. It was, like you said, kind of a 2-match show here. Both of the War Games matches were what people were tuning in for. Both of them were great. As we said earlier, the women's match was probably a little better, if only for the fact that it was a little less time. But I thought all the matches were good. My predictions weren't very good, but I think you and I have been following NXT as closely as we had in the past. So that probably didn't help, but top stars of the show for me, Undisputed Era. If we're going to go back to the women's match, Io Shirai for sure was a standout. Toni Storm, always a standout for me. And then that's pretty much my big ones there.
My picks are going to be a little different. So yeah, Io Shirai with the moment of the night, I think, with the garbage can dive, but I think Raquel Gonzalez really stood out in that match. I think they really pushed her well. And she fit in. I
Mhm.
think, you're talking about like all these other women's wrestlers. Like a lot of people don't talk about Raquel Gonzalez. And I think she's shut a lot of people up and said, here I am. So I think she did a fantastic job. Yeah. So I think she's probably going to, and Pat McAfee, like,
Yeah.
dude's been gold so far. Like, give him the ball, let him kick it. Because he was a punter. Hit it. All right. Yeah. All three people will enjoy that. Mistake. That's for
Well,
a future episode. So just know that's a call forward.
have
So
mercy.
Return of the Mac.
Yeah, we are.
You'll enjoy.
So this is bonus episode 8.5. But in the future, episode 11, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be our top 2000s rock radio. If we're wearing the same clothes, if you're watching the video version, that is the one that we taped prior to this. So a little out of order, but we wanted to get this one out because NXT War Games just happened a couple days ago. And so hopefully while you're listening to this is still within the week that NXT War Games had happened. The next NXT kind of special is on the 6th of January. I think it's New Year's Evil, which I think is an old WCW pay-per-view, if I'm not mistaken, or something to that effect. But anyways, thank you for joining us on the bonus episode. This is a little shorter, only a little. And feel free to hit us up on Facebook, Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, all of that, for all of your episodes in the past there. Hit us up for any future tournaments you'd like to see us do. And then also don't forget, we've got music out as well. VRAP and RJ Gunn music available on YouTube and Spotify. So anyways, I think that's it for the day. Enjoy your night. We'll catch you on the flip side. Flippy flop.